Hey everyone, Ethan here. Welcome to Hello Road. So over the last week, I've been driving this new 2025 Acura MDX Type S, the sportiest version of Acura's popular three-row midsize SUV. The new MDX has been refreshed with a bunch of new tech, and according to Acura, the Type S is the most premium SUV in Acura's history. So today we'll take a close look at the features, the interior, the tech, and go for a long drive on one of my favorite canyon roads and see how we like it. So the MDX has been around for a quarter century. Can you believe that? It debuted way back in 2000 when NSYNC was still ruling the charts. Frosted tips were all the rage, and I think the PlayStation 2 had just come out. Since then, the popularity of SUVs continued to explode, and now we're on this fourth generation MDX. And this three-row SUV is currently Acura's best-selling vehicle. So this gen has been around since 2022, and for 2025, they made a bunch of updates. They ditched the controversial touchpad that pretty much everyone hated and finally added a touchscreen. There's some new driver assistance features, and there's a few tweaks to the exterior design as well. So the MDX has several trims to choose from. It starts at $52,550 after destination charge, heading all the way up to over $78,000 for this Type S if you include a bunch of options. The MDX has always been about carting around a bunch of people in comfort and style, and this one is no exception. And the Type S dials up the sportiness several notches with a more powerful engine, adaptive dampers, air springs, and Brembo brakes. All right, so what do you think of this exterior design? Crossovers and SUVs all tend to look the same from the side, and the MDX is no exception. But the front end, which was recently restyled, has a pretty unique character. The creased hood, the pentagon grille, and the wide fenders do give it a pretty distinctive look. There's also some new wheel designs for 2025, and these are pretty nice. This Type S has 21-inch wheels, and it has Continental cross-contact rubber, which isn't the sportiest tire on the market, but it should help with grip on these curvy roads. All right, let's move on to the paint, and there are a few new paint colors this year, including this urban gray pearl, which is a $600 option. I don't know about you, but I'm not really into paying $600 for something that kind of just looks like primer gray. I really don't understand why this paint color is so popular nowadays. It seems like every car company is offering it. Bring back the fun colors from the 90s. Anyway, to be fair, there is a touch of a pearlescent glow in this paint here, which makes it a bit more unique, but it's only a touch. Overall, I think the design is simple and elegant and not overstyled. It does look a touch sporty, but at its core, it's still a three-row crossover, and there's only so much designers can do here with this general shape. All right, moving on to this interior. A three-row SUV should do a good job of moving a bunch of people around in comfort. So how do we do in that regard? In terms of design and materials, I think it's quite a bit nicer here than MDXs of the past, bringing the MDX one step closer to the competition. These deep blue quilted leather seats look awesome, and they're really comfortable too. And this Type S gives you some faux suede bolsters. And these seats are 16-way power adjustable seats, and they're heated, ventilated, and they do offer a really fantastic massaging function. It's really quite good. In fact, I'm gonna turn it on right now and just leave it on for the rest of this review. All right, so I'm 6'3", and legroom and headroom in here are really good, even with this huge panoramic sunroof. The area for my legs is a bit narrow, but this right side is padded, so if I bang my knee up against it, it doesn't hurt. So in front of me, we got a pretty nice looking perforated leather steering wheel, and it's heated. And in front of that, we have a digital gauge cluster, which has all the information you might need, including a G-force meter, and I don't really know why you need that in a three-row crossover, even a sporty one, but I guess it's kind of neat that it's there. All right, so now let's move on to the most obvious change from the previous model year, and it can be found right in this center area. So previous models had a touchpad down here, which controlled a non-touch screen, and it wasn't all that user-friendly. So I'm glad that Acura ditched that screen in favor of a 12.3-inch touchscreen with Google built in. The new system is responsive, it's easy to use without much distraction. It's got wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay built in. But even if you didn't want to use CarPlay, this built-in system is pretty good. The climate control system uses physical controls, which I appreciate. There's quite a few buttons, but everything's easy to operate without taking your eyes off the road for too long. And featured right here prominently in the center is this drive mode selector, and we'll talk about those modes in just a bit. You got this push button gear selector, which isn't my favorite, but I like the fact that it doesn't take up a whole lot of space. And if you're looking for the place to plug in your phone, it's right down here on the right. This strange little pop-up feature right here. Fun to open and close repeatedly. It's kind of strange, but I guess it works if you feel the need to hide those ports. Got a volume knob and a track change button down here, and there's a gigantic charging pad, some decent sized cup holders. The center console has 2 latches. You can open the top and you can place your phone or some small items in there. Open up this other latch and you have a pretty small compartment down there, big enough to store random items like your kids' favorite toys. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention this Type S has a 31 speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system, and truly it sounds awesome. So back there in the second row, legroom is a bit cramped for me with my front seat set for myself. Headroom is just okay for me, but I think if you're a bit shorter, you'll be comfortable back there. Speaking of comfort, the outboard seats are heated, which is nice. We've also got climate controls, vents, and USB ports. Good amount of space for a kid's car seat, and the latch anchors are easy to get to. The center seat folds down to reveal some cup holders, and the entire center seat can be removed if you like. Now moving on to that very small third row, that's not a place that I'd really want to spend any time. It's tiny, mainly for kids, but the seats do fold up pretty easily with the push of a button. Now in terms of cargo space, it's pretty decent with all 3 rows in use. We've got 16.3 cubic feet of space. If you fold that third row, now we've got 39.1, and if we fold the second row, now we've got a copious amount, 71.4 cubic feet. There's also some underfloor storage way in the back there. Now in terms of safety and driver assistance features, the MDX gets an upgraded Acura Watch 360 system, and one of the new features that they have here is an automatic lane change assist function, which can move you over on the freeway without your input. The circumstances have to be just right for it to work. Obviously no cars in the way or really anywhere nearby. I don't think it's any easier than just looking in the mirror and making the lane change yourself, but it's kind of neat, I guess. So the safety features that I do really appreciate and I think will make driving safer is the lane change collision mitigation system, the front cross traffic warning, and the braking system with improved pedestrian detection. It's just kind of like having one extra set of eyes on the road. The adaptive cruise control has also been revised to make it a bit smoother, and I think it works pretty well. Now in terms of outward visibility, it's pretty decent here. The view out the sides and the front is good. It also doesn't have a gargantuan hood, so it's still relatively easy to pinpoint where that leading edge of the car is. The view out the back is pretty good too, unless you have people in that third row. And we do have a decent rear view camera here. The 360-degree camera is nice to have, but it's not as high quality as what's found on some of the competition. All right, let's talk a little bit more about how this thing drives. So the MDX has 2 engine options. Most models get a naturally aspirated 3.5-liter 6-cylinder, making 290 horsepower and 267 pound-feet of torque. And this Type S gets a turbocharged 3-liter 6-cylinder, making 355 horsepower and 354 pound-feet of torque. And that's paired to a 10-speed automatic transmission, same as before. The 2 lowest trims come with front-wheel drive, but the rest come with Acura's SHOD torque vectoring all-wheel drive system. I know it's not pronounced SHOD, but that's what I hear anytime I see this emblem. And this system can send up to 70% of the torque to the rear axle and then 100% to the outside rear wheel when turning. All right, so let's talk acceleration. In my opinion, 0 to 60 times are kind of overrated. I've driven some cars that have somewhat slow 0 to 60 times that are incredibly fun to drive, and I've driven cars with insanely quick 0 to 60 times, which provide a level of speed and insanity that's completely unusable on public roads. And I've heard some people say that this Type S is slow, which is pretty ridiculous. 0 to 60 miles per hour, it occurs in about 5.5 seconds. And when you stomp on it, there is a bit of a delay right off the line, but once it gets going, it's plenty fast for just about anything you'll encounter in everyday driving situations. Couple that power with the sport modes and the torque vectoring capabilities of this all-wheel drive system, and the Type S is a legitimately fun car to drive on a deserted canyon road. You've got paddle shifters here, which is fun, and when you're in the Sport Plus mode, the upshifts occur 30% sooner by cutting the fuel delivery briefly during the gear change. Fancy. And if you do find yourself going too fast, you're in luck because the brakes are fantastic. They are really good. This Type S gets larger 14.3-inch rotors and bright red 4-piston Brembo calipers. I'm pretty sure painting them red makes the car stop better, right? The system also incorporates Acura's brake-by-wire system, which you think might not feel all that great, but it's really quite good. But at the end of the day, even with all of these sport-focused features, this is still a 3-row people hauler, and 99% of the time it will be used for your daily commute or school drop-off lines or supermarket parking lots. And thanks to its perfectly tuned adaptive air suspension, this Type S actually has a split personality. It's got crisp and responsive road manners for that 0.1% of the time that you're on a canyon road like this one. You take the long road home from work or something like that. But then let's drop it into comfort mode and now it feels like we're riding atop a cloud. It's pretty fantastic. There's also a lift mode, which raises the suspension in case you ever need to ford a stream or something like that, which you'll probably never do, but it looks really cool when it's raised up. But yeah, honestly, my favorite part of this MDX Type S is the pleasant ride quality. In comfort mode, you can dial up that supremely soft suspension that soaks up all these bumps with ease. When you're in sport mode, the steering is nice and firm, but when you're in normal or comfort mode, the steering is very light, makes it very easy to maneuver around parking lots. All right, let's get to the things that I don't like. The gas mileage is not the best, 17 miles per gallon city, 21 miles per gallon highway, and 19 combined. This is a platform that's just sort of begging for hybridization. And for me personally, if I absolutely wanted a sporty vehicle, I don't think a 3-row crossover would be my first choice. If I'm gonna drive a sporty vehicle, I'd rather it be something smaller, something lightweight, something more nimble. But I can see the allure here. You want the best of both worlds, a practical vehicle that can haul a family, and a fun to drive sports car. I think this Type S does an admirable job at combining the two. All right, so let's talk price. This MDX is certainly on the higher side when it comes to 3-row crossovers. They start at $52,550 after destination for the base front-wheel drive MDX. This top-of-the-line Type S Advance with the optional gray paint comes to $76,900. No, that's not cheap, but the lower trims do stack up pretty favorably to the competition. The BMW X5, Audi Q7, Volvo XC90, and Genesis GV80 all have much higher starting prices. While this MDX interior is very lovely, I'm not quite sure it reaches the level of luxury in the competition. But in my opinion, the agile handling of this Type S makes it more enjoyable to drive than those others. And you might even consider something like the Mazda CX-90. It has a much cheaper starting price, but the higher-end CX-90s are in the same ballpark as the mid-tier MDX trims. So this Type S is a lot of fun, but most everyday driving situations don't really allow you to take advantage of all that this has to offer. If it were me, I'd probably opt for a lower trim, though I do really love the air suspension in this setup, so that would be tough to give up. So when it comes down to it, the MDX was already a very good upscale 3-row crossover, but it was hampered by a not so great infotainment system. So ultimately, I say that the MDX has gone from very good to pretty great. All right, that's it for today. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon. If you want to help support the channel, please buy a Hello Road t-shirt or hat at helloroad.tv/shop. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you're well, and I'll see you soon.